This episode of FineScale Modeler's New Product Rundown features Zvezda's BM-21 Grad, Horizon's latest Redstone, 3 aircraft references, and Takom's Jagdpanther.
New Product Rundown brought to you by HobbyZone USA, your source for hobby storage solutions, hard-to-find hobby tools, and aftermarket modeling needs. And by Cult TV Man's Hobby Shop, the place to go to for science fiction and fantasy kits, details, masks, decals, and more.
Welcome to New Product Rundown, FineScale Modeler's twice monthly show where, basically we run down the latest products and tell you about them. I'm Aaron Skinner.
And I'm Elizabeth Nash. Let's take a look at the first product on this episode's list, Zvezda's 1/35th scale BM-21 Grad.
Grad is Russian for hail, an appropriate name for this truck-mounted multiple rocket launcher.
Armed with 122mm missiles, the weapon system entered Soviet service in 1963 and has been widely used in conflicts for the last half-century.
This kit replicates the latest version of the BM-21-1 mounted on the Ural 4320 truck with satellite navigation and automated fire control.
Just as the full-size BM-21 is built on the Ural 4320, this kit includes parts from Zvezda's 2017 kit of the Russian cargo truck, including the cab, posable doors with separate inside panels, seats and driver's controls, posable hood, engine compartment sides, and front fenders with the reinforcing ridges reflected underneath.
Much of the suspension and drivetrain are common to both releases, including wheels, front and rear axles, leaf springs, drive shafts, transfer case, and more, including 7 solid rubber tires.
All of that fits into new chassis rails with raised sections for the launcher equipment.
A full engine is included with block and transmission halves, top, heads, sump, fan, and belts for the front, turbo, exhausts, radiator behind a new grille, and plumbing.
New cab parts for this version include the dashboard, firewall and windshield, rear wall, and what are presumably control boxes for the rocket launcher.
The bulk of the new parts focus on the 40-tube rocket launcher at the rear. The tubes themselves are grouped into sets of 10, each divided in half. The rear caps for the tubes are grouped also.
The launcher base fits into the chassis and supports a platform and equipment boxes, elevation and rotation bracket, and an external frame for the tubes.
Clear parts provide windshield and windows for the cab, as well as head, tail, and marker lights.
Decals and color diagrams give markings for 3 Russian BM-21s, a parade vehicle with stripes on the doors, and 2 camouflage service trucks. Self-adhesive foil dresses the big wing mirrors.
There's a lot of detail here without the complications of photo etch, so this should be a straightforward build of the Grad.
Here's a launcher of a different kind, Horizon's 1/72nd scale Redstone.
This is the Australian company's latest version of the early launcher. The initial kit dates back to 2017.
New parts for the upper stages allow the model to be built as the Juno 1 vehicle that launched Explorer 1, America's first satellite, as a PGM-11 Redstone intermediate range ballistic missile, as one of the Sparta rockets used in a joint British and American project, including RESAT, Australia's first satellite launched in 1967.
The rest of the kit is Horizon's terrific Redstone, including the first stage, fins, engine, and stand.
A photo-etched fret has parts for the Juno and Explorer 1 combination.
Microscale decals provide markings for the 4 vehicles, including stencils and stripes.
These are well-made, easy-to-build kits, and this one offers some very interesting choices of the space race's first decade.
We've got 3 interesting references for the aircraft modelers out there, starting with MMP Book's monograph on the PZL-23 Karaś by Tomasz Kapansky.
This Polish light bomber inflicted damage on advancing German forces in the opening days of World War II, but was quickly overwhelmed by the Luftwaffe's faster fighters.
In addition to the design's history, this 144-page softcover volume includes scale drawings, detail photos, a description of colors and markings, and nice color profiles. It's the perfect reference to build one of IBG's or Mirage's kits.
Also from MMP Books comes a terrific book on Finnish jet colors by Koisti Partanen.
This 240-page hardcover book details camouflage and markings worn by jets in Finnish Air Force service from the de Havilland Vampire to the FA-18 Hornet.
Markings for each type is described with text and photos, with profiles for many. Appendices cover a lot of ground, including roundels and serials, as well as squadron emblems and special schemes.
And here's one for the airliner fans, Building Concorde by Tony Butler and Jean-Christophe Carbonell.
Less of a modeling reference and more of a history, this book recounts the supersonic transport's lengthy gestation. First as separate French and British programs, then as a joint effort.
Along the way, it details various systems, the testing process, and shows plenty of photos.
If you're interested in the development of one of the most iconic airliners in history, then this is the book for you.
Finally, let's take a look at Takom's 1/35th scale Jagdpanther G2.
Built on the suspension and lower hull of a Panther, this tank hunter was armed with an 88mm gun, like that used on the Tiger II.
415 were built in the last 16 months of World War II, and they were deployed both to the eastern and western fronts.
This kit represents the later variant and includes a Panther G engine deck and includes a full interior.
The Jagdpanther's distinctive upper hull with sloped side and forward armor includes a nice rolled steel texture and torch marks on the joins. Be careful handling the parts prior to assembly, as the frame for the engine deck is molded in place and it's a tad fragile.
Installing the engine grills, plates, and hatches will bolster this section.
But it's getting all of the rear detail, including the engine with its block, heads, and plumbing, fuel tanks and cooling systems, compartment sides and firewall, as well as exhausts and plumbing that will bolster the section completely.
The lower hull has a bottom plate with separate sides and a rear plate that have detail front and back. Sponson bottoms finish the area, but they aren't added until much later.
Much of the running gear is common to Takom's Panthers, including the road wheels and idlers, optional drive sprockets, Lincoln length tracks with separate guide teeth, and a jig for assembly, and road wheel arms.
Inside, the torsion bars thread through a series of frames running the length and breadth of the hull. Other interior details include the transmission, drive shafts, and driver's controls.
Floor panels cover much of that detail, and there's plenty of other equipment here too, including ammunition racks and plenty of rounds for the main gun to fill them.
That gun includes a one-piece barrel with a nice cast-textured mantlet, a detailed breech and recuperators, with controls and a sturdy mount.
It fits into a nicely molded recess in the front plate backed by a second thickness of armor. Hatches in the casemate's rear and top plates can be posed open.
Other features include Schertzen with a separate mounting rack and armored covers for the engine intakes on the rear deck.
A small photo etch fret provides screens for the intakes.
Decals and color diagrams give markings for the ammunition and 6 Jagdpanthers in Germany in spring 1945.
Plenty of details key Takom's Panthers and the Jagdpanther. This looks like a great option for anyone wanting to build one of the late war tank hunters.
Look for build reviews of the Grad and Jagdpanther in upcoming issues of FineScale Modeler magazine.
And you can find more new products in the fabulous April Go Gorgo issue of FineScale Modeler.
Also on sale now is the spring issue of Damage, so pick up a copy today.
Thanks for visiting FineScale.com. I'm Aaron Skinner.
And I'm Elizabeth
Nash,
Savior of the universe.
Chia Panthers, that's what we need to market those for.
It grows its own
FineScale.
camo. Oh, yeah! Yes! Oh, this is awesome.